Worked. Thanks. Okay, we have concluded our regular agenda items. We now move on to other business. So if anyone has, any of my colleagues wants to raise a matter.
I have one item that I'd like to raise, specifically for our attorney, Mr. Brown, as we are having a great deal of discussion about statues moving, not moving, so on and so forth. I'd like to ask publicly if you could request an opinion from the Attorney General in regards to whether or not he believes it is in our peer review legally to be able to move the Lee or Jackson statue.
Is that something that the Attorney General does?
The Attorney General on request will issue legal opinions that don't involve factual determinations. If the question is whether the removal of the Robert E. Lee statute would violate the state code provision that everyone is aware of and it's been discussed a lot, then I think that is the type of question he would address.
Yes, sir. If we could explore that option.
Just as a matter of procedure, in the past, I have always asked for, a majority of council to authorize that, rather than having individual councilors request it.
Well, what I need to,
Right.
I think it would be helpful to have a motion.
I would have a question then, because I have no problem with asking for that, but I don't want to kind of hog tie us in having to wait until that, it could be months and months and months before that opinion comes back. And it's not binding, I assume, even if it does come back. So
it's his opinion.
Right.
It's not binding on a court. I don't know the time frame for getting an answer. I think this is a particularly busy time of the year, because it's my understanding that they do get a lot of inquiries, legal questions from the General Assembly while they're in session. So we can, if it's council's desire, it will take. It's not simply asking the question. If I send in the question, my question has to be in the form of an opinion that I write, giving my opinion and asking him to respond to it.
Well, then I'd like to ask if we have to vote on this, I would rather vote at the next meeting. If Mr. Bellamy still wants to bring it forward at the next meeting, because I don't want it to be something that further delays any action.
And please understand, I'm not suggesting that you don't do it.
No, I understand.
If I request the opinion, I am requesting it on behalf of the city of Charlottesville, and for that reason, I would like to have a majority of council supporting me taking.
I'm not saying I wouldn't support it. I just, because I haven't heard about it before, I wouldn't know quite which way to vote given that.
And I guess I have a question procedurally. Would that be best done by resolution from this council authorizing you to ask that, or? And it has also been our policy to not vote on something that hasn't been put on the agenda.
I don't feel that something as formal as a resolution is necessary. My recollection of the last time it was done was to request an opinion regarding the construction of the Meadow Creek Parkway through McIntyre Park, and I believe that was just a simple motion by the council voted on, and the motion directed me to seek the opinion of the Attorney General on that issue.
I can say it's the first I've heard of it as well, and I would want to think about it carefully. The AG opinions can have bearing on local government matters, but it gets into separation of powers issues in my mind. The AG is the Attorney General's office in Virginia is a separately elected political office that represents state agencies. They don't represent local governments, so their opinion may or may not be relevant in this matter. I mean, it could be, it could not be. I think that we could have a vote on it, and I think it's a good discussion. I'd like to hear more about the reasons for looking for the opinion, but we have an attorney who works for us and who advises us very capably on a range of, on all of our matters. So I think that I would like to discuss it a little bit.
Mr. Mayor, I think the words the courts frequently use are that Attorney General opinions are entitled to due consideration,
right? But
they are not binding.
Exactly.
Agreed.
Right.
So furthermore, that would even kind of expound, or that would be the explanation in regards to why I would like to have an opinion. I don't think it's something in which requires a long, drawn-out conversation in regards to us getting an opinion from the Attorney General. I understand that many of us, this is a big decision. We're not discussing it right now. I've heard two of my colleagues, or some of my colleagues, say that they haven't, this is the first that they've heard about it. But some of these issues, and I think this kind of speaks to kind of the way in which we operate as a whole in regards to council. I feel like every decision that we make does not have to be one that requires a long, drawn-out discussion. I'm literally just asking if our attorney could ask the Attorney General for an opinion. I guess I'm somewhat confused as to why that would require even further discussion if we're just asking for an opinion and we know that it's not binding. We're literally just asking for his opinion in regards to the matter. We know, and I'll be quiet after this, we know that, again, it's not binding, and furthermore, that his opinion is essentially just an opinion, as Mr. Brown just alluded to. It's considered to have due consideration, nothing more, nothing less. But I think in regards to due diligence, it bodes well for us in whatever decision that we make moving forward.
I guess my concern is it does take a fair amount of staff time, both here and at the Attorney General's office. And so I think if we have the policy that we have to have a vote to do it, I want to make sure that the consequence of my vote, if I vote for it, isn't to delay any decision about the statutes unduly, because I think that we need to get moving on those.
I agree. We need to get moving on whatever decision that we're going to make. With Mr. Brown, would this require a great deal of staff time for you to form an opinion to send to the AG?
It will require some time to write the request, because as I say, my request has to be in the form of an opinion itself. And so, a lot of the research has already been done.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
Right.
So right. I think that would shorten the time considerably. Obviously, I can't speak to the time that it would take in Richmond.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Bellamy, I would respond in the interest of efficiency, which is the premise that you just said. As an attorney and working in a lot of different kinds of legal, I tend to think that you go for your simplest, most immediate legal answer unless you need more. So we have an attorney who works for us, who provides us with counsel. That's the point of having, some cities don't have a full-time counsel. So when Mr. Brown and his staff are right there for us, this is a whole other level of legal. It's an added layer that you're asking for, and it's from a very political office. The Attorney General is elected statewide to do statewide policy, separately elected, not hired. So those would be reasons that you asked what would be the pushback or the secondary concerns. To me, those would be among them. It introduces a whole other layer of complexity and redundancy potentially, and inefficiency. So that at least, again, without having only had this time to respond to it. But if we had a more full, and I think that this is the reason that it would be worth debating, rather than, there was a lot of rush on this initially. So I would respond by saying we should be able to even debate your idea rather than just say, that's a bad idea.
There's going to be a great deal of debate no matter what happens. If there is an individual, or if there is a vote from this council for individuals to move that statute, let's just speak hypothetically, if that happens, we are well aware that there's going to be a great deal of pushback. Let's just be honest about the situation. We know there's either going to be a lawsuit, multiple lawsuits. Individuals are going to say, hey, where's the due diligence in terms of X, Y, and Z? And in my opinion, this just crosses one thing off of the checkbox. Not saying that we don't know what's going to happen, but we can already say when we have that conversation that this has already been placed in motion. And maybe I'm just seeing it differently. I understand your perspective, Mayor Signer, in regards to you feel as if this was rushed, but us asking for an opinion, we've already asked an opinion in regards to the interpretation of the law from our personal attorney, and now us asking for an opinion from the AG, I don't understand how that is maybe catching some individuals as off guard or blindsided, because it's just essentially doing due diligence. So maybe, I'm just not seeing it, but if we don't have the votes in terms of individuals moving forward, then that's fine.
And I'll say, I don't feel blindsided. It was something that I know you had mentioned at one point talking about possibly, it's just that before voting on it, I think it would be really important for us to understand, I mean, I'm balking more because I am in a hurry, than because I want to delay something. I don't want it to delay.
Well, I would look at it as, I would come down with Wes. This is not a question that has not been asked before. I've gone to all of the commission meetings, and it's been asked a number of times, and people are always dancing around it. So in a way, what Wes is asking is for us just to get with it. This is not plowing new ground. I understand about the AG opinion, advisory in nature and all of that. So I don't see any reason to delay it. If we did, I just don't want to delay this.
Would it help
I'm
if
sorry,
we...
delay what? Delay this
The
decision?
process
what?
that the Blue Ribbon Commission has taken this community through. I would like to see it keep moving at a pretty...
And I guess what I'm
robust
hearing is that
clip.
Councilor Szakos is concerned that Councilor Bellamy's request will delay that process.
Well, we just have to agree to disagree.
Well, one thing
I don't
I'd like
agree
to
with that.
offer, what may move us off this rock, which is that if we can ask our attorney, and he can say no, that he needs a vote in the first place, but in preparing a memo for our vote at the next meeting, to kind of do a basic kind of what that would look like, what that request would look like, and then, so that work then won't be a terrific delay after our vote. We can just go ahead and go out. Is that a reasonable request?
Sure.
Well, let me, with all due respect, I mean, this is designed to, this is a step we have to take. Somebody has to take it. Just a city,
But what I'm
from our
asking,
legal department saying it would still have to go at some point.
but if our staff work can be done before our next meeting, then we vote and it gets sent if we have a carrying vote.
Again, I have a question again. I'm a little confused. We do not need an opinion
No.
from the Attorney General's office, correct? We don't need it.
There's no requirement for one, regardless of what you decide.
It also would only advise us on questions of state law. There are entirely different legal questions about the progeny of the statutes and the charter that have not, that the AG won't likely advise us on, because it's a matter of
Well aware.
it's just one element of this, right?
It's an element. I agree. It's just one element. I'm hard pressed for individuals to persuade me that it won't be an important element.
Yeah, we just gotta,
regardless of what he says, it's going to be something that comes up. I mean, when we look at the long game, and I apologize if you all feel blindsided. Sometimes I feel like we do things in which that it allows us to remain stagnant. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't process things and we shouldn't take our time and make sure that we, go through the proper motions. But these are issues that this AG opinion, this potential lawsuit, whatever occurs, however it occurs, some of these things are inevitable based on whatever decision we choose to make. If there's a vote if there's a 4-1 vote that statutes should remain, and we take the recommendation from the Blue Ribbon Commission, well, they gave us several recommendations, but if we just take one that says that it should stay, then so be it. If the vote goes and that we say that the statutes should be moved, then this opinion would be needed. I don't understand.
I would look at it.
Mr. Bellamy, the thing is that the process of dealing with the Office of the Attorney General has whole other levels of
I'm well aware of the
politics
process of dealing with the Attorney General.
But the presentation you're providing isn't addressing that. It is a different political office that is not what you're describing it as. It does not provide a clean and straight, necessarily legal opinion for a client that they're not even our client, or we're not their client. Their clients are state agencies.
Yeah, but it is a step that would have to be taken, and it will be taken anyway as this thing goes. The governor was involved before vetoing that law that the state legislature passed. This will go up to the state. There's no question about it.
But not necessarily either the AG or the governor's office. It could be, I mean, how would it necessarily involve those two offices? It wouldn't. it's a legal issue of state statute, but it would be a lawsuit against us in a circuit court that could
A
go up to
legal
this.
issue of state, with a state statute, but it wouldn't involve.
But that's the General Assembly, that's not the Attorney General. They don't opine about statutory conflicts as a matter of routine. It depends on their client. We're not their client. They don't represent local government. So this is what I'm saying that our attorney is sitting right here. He's the one who has our
And he has
interest.
gone through this procedure before, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, I rest my case.
Okay, well, is there support for, at least right now?
I'm supportive of having a presentation at our next meeting in voting.
About the AG? Okay. Okay. So.
Do you want, just for clarification, do you want the request actually written by the next meeting?
Would you be willing to do that?
I can certainly try.
I would appreciate the effort.
Okay.
Wait, but we don't have, so that would be a
Not to
third.
be sent,
Okay.
but just to
We would have
bring
to
it
vote
forward
on
for our
it, to send
approval
it
or not.
but at least it would be something
Then we
tangible
wouldn't
to
be
look
delaying
at.
the time. That work would be done.
Okay.
It's a compromise.
And maybe we could suss out how long a response would take
Yes.
to get an opinion. That might be helpful information.
Sure.
Thank you. I
Glad
appreciate
we
it.
had the conversation.
I just think it's, as a matter of practice, for the public's sake, it is just never a good idea to vote on anything under other business that has not been posted on the agenda.
It happens often.
It is not good practice.
It hasn't
So we
happened.
can't pick and choose when we want to utilize.
The proper
the
procedure that we've
Yeah, okay.
always done historically is
It
that
is.
we offer a suggestion for a future item on the agenda, and you get 2 or 3 counselors to side with you, and then it gets on the next agenda.
And
So
have
we
had-
pick and choose
Well, we
when
have-
we want to do that.
We've
Spell-
had
It has not happened
exceptions.
this year. We have
Well,
not.
yes, this is the first meeting of 2017,
No,
I
this-
agree.
We've
The
had,
last full calendar year, we have
Laugh a
not
little.
We have-
voted in other business.
we have, over the course of the last 7 years, made exceptions to that policy when something is either something that's just pure housekeeping or something that is an emergency and has to happen by a certain date. And we have done it, I think, twice since I've been on council. So it can happen, but I don't see that this is an emergency if we can move forward to the next
Yeah,
meeting.
it being placed on the next meeting, I
Yeah.
think it's fine. I mean, that's discussing it
Yeah, I appreciate it.
there. I'm glad we had this initial conversation. I think I've spoken with a few of my colleagues, and just for public knowledge, spoken with essentially all of my colleagues in regards to this topic. This isn't something that I want us to quote unquote fight, fall out, and
Yeah.
become ugly about. Whether we agree or whether we disagree is fine, but us having the conversations, albeit very difficult conversations, we still need to have them, and I don't want us to shy away from them or become stagnant in the way in which we proceed because of, well, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, so we will talk about this at our next meeting. Okay, other items, other business?